Okay, gents, welcome back to the Hard City Raindrops podcast, the gentleman's playground, where we talk about everything from men's fashion, everyday carry, knives, survival, backpacking, hiking, outdoors, fishing, firearms. I think I might have said that, but this is just generally everything men's lifestyle, and that's cool. Women are more than welcome if you are here. Hello, my name is Will. I am your host, and today's episode, number 9, is about concealed carry. So we're just going to do some concealed carry tips and pointers and just generally talk about the methods of concealed carry and how to make it a little bit more easier if you're struggling with it. These are just some methods I use. And if you're new here or just listening on the podcast or on YouTube watching, maybe you're getting into firearms, maybe you don't have one yet, maybe you're on the brink of buying one. These are some tips to help you get started. So for the beginners, I just wanted to start out with the basic rules of owning a firearm. There's 4 basic rules you're going to want to follow and know and practice. Okay, and those basic rules are: always assume a firearm is loaded. So what that basically means is if somebody hands you a firearm, even if they press check it or check it and clear it right in front of you, you're going to pick that firearm up and you're going to check it yourself anyway. Always assume it's loaded, even when someone gives you a gun that you've seen them unload with your own 2 eyes. It's better to safely double check it. I mean, if you want to be a responsible firearm owner and you want to take it seriously, these are just things that you should be doing. So always assume a firearm's loaded. Always. That's rule number 1. Okay. Rule number 2, and these I guess aren't in any kind of order. These are just the 4 main rules. I guess that first one, though, is definitely the biggest in my point of view. But anyway, number 2 is keep your finger off the trigger unless you're intended to fire it. So, that's pretty self-explanatory, I think. Just keep your finger off the trigger. It's not a toy. All right, so there you go. I mean, there's not really any 2 ways about to say that. Even when you're unholstering it, you got to practice keeping that finger off of the trigger. Keep it rested against the side of the trigger guard or up top on the side of the, just off the trigger. Wherever makes it comfortable for you, just keep your finger off the trigger until you're pointed, you're aimed, you're ready to pull it. That's when you put your finger on the trigger. Now, this one kind of leads into this, but muzzle discipline. This can kind of fall in line with all of these. I mean, muzzle discipline means whenever you're handling a firearm, loaded or unloaded, your muzzle should be pointed downward in a safe direction at all times. There shouldn't be a time where you're floating the thing around or looking down the barrel or anything of that nature. It's always should be pointed in a safe direction to point it downward, especially at a range, especially everywhere. It doesn't matter. Even if you're in the comfort of your own home and nobody's watching you or anything. Those are the most cases where something bad is going to happen. So muzzle discipline is very, very important. Always practice muzzle discipline. You can start practicing that now, even without a gun. Use anything. Just practice pointing it downward in a safe direction. So, when you are ready to shoot, okay, this last rule is for when you're aimed, you're cocked, you're ready. You got a bullet in the chamber, you're ready to pull the trigger. You're at the range. Or wherever you're at, you need to know your target and beyond. So make sure whatever you're shooting at, it's on the other side of that, 100 feet behind it. Especially if, God forbid, you get into a firefight, which is honestly very unlikely. But it does happen. You can't rule out the possibility. That's why we carry them. But know your target and beyond, and practice that at the range. Always look behind the target. If you're in the woods, always know, check. Well, if you're at a public range, if you're out in the woods somewhere and you're going to go shoot, Public range, I don't recommend you going behind the range to check. But I'm saying, like, if you're on your private property or something, go back there and take a walk a couple 100 feet out. Make sure that your signs are posted. Make sure, wherever you're shooting is going to be into a dirt hill or something. The bullets aren't just going to go traveling. So know your target beyond. Those are the rules you need to imply first before you even think about it. You need to get those down first, So those are the basic rules. So concealed carry, what is that? In my state, it's when you have a firearm on you, but it's concealed. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? But a lot of people get it mixed up. In Pennsylvania, the Philadelphia has a Class A firearm city. Okay, so that means you can't have a firearm. You can't carry a firearm without a permit in the city of Philadelphia. Now, in the state of Pennsylvania, it's different. You don't need a license. You can go to a gun store, get a background check, have a gun, and put it on you. But the second you conceal it without a permit in the state of Pennsylvania, it becomes a felony. You can open carry it, meaning legally, without a permit in Pennsylvania. It's a little weird and tricky, but that's what it states. The second you step into the city limits, you have to have a permit, period. A firearms permit, carrying permit. There's no concealed carry. If you get a permit that says concealed carry, that's all you're going to be allowed to do. So just get the permit that's a firearm, a carry permit. You can do whatever you want with it. You want to open carry, open carry. You want to conceal it. Now, the differences between open carry and concealed carry are just that. Open carry is, you have it open out of its, not out of a holster, it's still in a holster. It's just openly, you can see the firearm. Now, you can practice this. I recommend you try it. In the winter, I open carry my Glock 43 because it's just more comfortable and it's faster for me to get to it without, in the wintertime, I have to go through 6 layers of clothes to get to my firearm, God forbid. But in the summertime, I don't like to do that. But now you should practice your Second Amendment rights and also learn your state laws and stuff, Like, that's the law in Pennsylvania. It could be totally different in, Ohio or wherever else, Kansas, I don't know. New Jersey, you're not even allowed to carry a firearm. New York either. I think you are, but it's very tricky. It's ridiculous. So know those laws and figure out what you want to do and how much you're going to carry. I mean, to me, if you're going to get a firearms permit, you're going to carry all the time. So the next step is figuring out really what gun you want to get. What firearm is more comfortable for you? What's going to meet your needs? Are you going to go full size, or are you going to get a small little baby Glock, or Glock 19, or a Glock 43, or a Glock 26, which is the little small baby Glocks? So you got to kind of figure that out for yourself. It's tough to conceal the bigger grips. The bigger the grip, the tougher it is to conceal. You can stuff it in your pants, but the grip is what sticks out. When you conceal carry, you're going to have it tucked. But the way to do that, there's ways to do that. So first, you're not going to be carrying anything without a good gun belt. I'm not talking about go to Walmart and get a leather belt. I'm talking about do your shopping and get something that has good, rigid belt that, you're going to have to spend good money on, like $70 to $100 or more on a good belt. And that's going to keep that firearm nice and secure. It's going to keep it up on your hip. You're not walking around sagging your pants or whatever. I mean, if anybody's doing that, and, you can't honestly think that that's making a fashion statement or something. I mean, you got to have your you got to wear your clothes respectfully. And that's also part of owning a firearm, is the way you appear. Are you walking around with baggy clothes? Are you walking around with, throwing up gang signs and stuff like that? You know what I mean? Like, so if you look like a person who is responsible and knows and well educated on firearms and stuff, nobody's really going to give you any problem if it maybe prints out a little bit or something like that, because it's your right. But if you're perceiving yourself as someone as a threat or someone who's promoting violence or whatever, then you might have some issues. So having a good gun belt and having a good holster, good quality holster, is the most, if not the probably one of the most important things, because it all boils back to also, if you have a good quality holster and a good quality gun belt, then you're going to want to carry it more. You're going to carry the firearm more, because if it's uncomfortable and the belt's not working, the belt's kind of like, they make these cheap, crappy belts where, you try to, you get one from like let's say you go to Target and you get a cheap fake leather belt and you put it on. You try to put your Glock in there. I had a Glock 27, say, and that's a 40 caliber Glock, and it's 10 in the, or it might be 9, I forget, but it's let's just say 11 or 12 plus 1 in the chamber, or let's just say 10 in the clip, 1 in the chamber, so 11. I'm not sure, I forget. It's been a while since I had that gun, but that's a heavy gun with 40 caliber rounds in it. You're not going to want to carry that thing if you're not comfortable. So get a good quality holster. I mean, you can go leather, you can go Kydex. I use a Quick Violent Over holster. It's a black fabric multicam fabric overlay over carbon fiber Kydex. The reason I like the black fabric multicam on the Kydex holster is for the fact of the sweat. So the sweat builds up on that plastic Kydex, and the firearm in the summertime, and even in the winter, tends to want to slide around in there, and even in the inner liner of your jeans. With that fabric, likes to absorb the sweat. I really love the fabric overlay holsters. They're great. Leather's great too. Leather's super comfortable because they're, they just form. They form to you. And I really enjoy leather. I think I'm going to get a Jackson leather. It makes really good holsters, depending on what my next piece is. I've been talking about getting another piece for a while. I got something in the works. I haven't been. I love my Glock 43 so much, and we'll talk about it. I just haven't had a reason to get anything else, and because that's, it's the perfect gun. I have it set up for me perfectly. And just to give you guys a little roundabout on it, it's a Glock 43. It's a 9mm. I have night sights on it. They're the TrueGlow TFX Pros. So the tritium on these night sights are amazing, and they are super bright. And the front sight one it's a white. It's got a white dot in the front sight. So the problem is, when I had the Armor Glow Spartans, I had an issue with those picking up the sight during the daytime. Now at nighttime they're great. They're freaking bright as heck. Okay, but during the daytime or during in the range shooting, I had a problem picking up that little tiny orange dot, because it was a little orange dot around a green tritium vial, and it was just tough for my eyes to pick up. Some of you may disagree with that and love the Armor Glow Spartans. They're Trigicon vials in there. So I didn't like them. They were just not for me. So I switched to the TrueGlow TFX Pros, which are bigger, they're longer, they look better on the firearm. They have a big, long tritium vial in the rear sights. The white, it's easy to pick up during the day, and at night, they're awesome. I love them. I did all the work on this firearm myself. That's another reason why it's a sentimental value. And this was also my first pistol purchase. This is the first gun I've ever bought, and it's the one I stuck with forever. And I love it. I absolutely love this thing. Actually, no, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. I had the Glock 27 first. So, but I didn't like to carry. It was too big. It was too heavy. That's why I moved to the 43. Once I had the 43, that thing comes with me everywhere. So anyway, I did all the work myself, and it has a stippled grip, which means The grip on the Glock 43 isn't great. It was doable. I put a Talon grip on it, which is like a rubber grip tape type tape you wrap around the grip. I put that on it, and it just seemed very slimy in the range, and it got slimy, and my hands were still slipping. And when you're shooting a firearm, this is the difference. When you just have it and you're unholstering and doing dry fire in your house or whatever, it's so much different when you're at the range or even in an outdoor range or in a cold or in the rain or in the snow or wherever. It's just so much different. So you got to kind of figure that out because, you don't want to be in the heat of the situation and have to figure it out. So it's a lot different when you're training than when you're actually pulling it out, pulling the trigger. And a lot of people don't train and just buy a gun. They either don't carry or they do carry and they don't train. They don't do practice unholstering the firearm and reholstering it. Obviously you do this with an unloaded gun. Once you get better, you do it at the range when it's loaded, but it's very difficult to do it quickly and get on target. I mean, it's hard. It's not an easy thing. It's a lot of muscle memory. You got to start really slow. Imagine in the wintertime you have a parka on, then maybe a sweatshirt, then maybe a thermal or something, and then another t-shirt, and then you have the gun. So, you're going through a few layers of clothes there, and you got to get that and grab, So you got to think about all those things and train and do that. But anyway, other upgrades I have in it besides the stippled grip, which I did myself, and the way you do that is with a soldering iron. You just get a soldering iron and you literally sit there and burn little holes in the grip, one by one, just little holes, and it takes forever. It's very excruciating on the eyes, and it's a patient process that takes a while. It was my first one I did, and it's okay, I'm an artist, so I can kind of do those kind of things naturally without really worrying about it. But I did a buddy's later on, and I did a few things after that, like the back of mags and some other different things, and just messed around with some knives, and I really got good at it, and his looks so much sicker than mine because I figured it out, so my next one is going to be really awesome. Now, you do got to be careful with it because you can over stipple it, and it'll tear up your back when you don't never want to carry it. Your shirt will get stuck on it and stuff, and it's just a nightmare once that happened. It actually did happen to me with that gun specifically, and I had to sand it down and make it smoother. So beyond the stipple grip, it has a double undercut. Now, what that means is on a Glock, on the undercut on the trigger guard, it goes straight across the bottom. So when you undercut it, you basically put a cut underneath it so your finger will fit up into the trigger guard more, so you have a better purchase on the firearm. Now, a double undercut is where you put one more cut underneath where your balance finger would go, or your pressure finger, I don't know what it's technically called, but it's that finger that goes over top, and you're holding it under the other part of the trigger guard. So you have your finger under your middle finger up under the trigger guard where your trigger finger would be on a trigger, and then you have the other finger here, and it's going to be up on that other double undercut. And basically the point of it is to give you a better grip on the firearm while you're holding it when you're shooting. And that's the point of that. So double undercut. And then I went ahead and put a OC Customs trigger in there, and that came with a red safety in the shoe. It came with a smoother trigger. I thought it was going to have a smoother. It didn't come with that. Well, mine still has this factory Glock trigger. It just has a red safety in the trigger shoe. Beyond, like I said, beyond the stipple grip and the undercut, it has an OC Customs trigger, and that has a polished trigger bar and ghost connector. And that just pretty much makes it a smoother pull. I don't know if it takes away any pounds. It seems like it made it a little bit more crisper. It's not like a 3-pound trigger or anything like that, and it didn't have no adjustment screws in the back for the striker or anything like that. It's it's just a real simple upgrade. Polished trigger bar, ghost connector, and that's it. Other than the base plates, which are, instead of the factory Glock base plates, I put Taran Tactical base plates. I have a couple of +1s, a +2, a couple +3s, And they're all Terran Tactical. And I do have a Hive Technologies base plate, but I don't like that one too much. It's kind of, it feels weird, and that one mag always gets, it doesn't work, it doesn't feed properly, so I never really use it. Actually, I was going to change that mag out and put back the factory base plate, but I'm not sure if it's that or the spring just went bad. I just don't use it. It's not even loaded. So anyway, that's pretty much it for the upgrades on there. And like I said, it goes in a QVO holster. That's quick, violent, over. And that holster is really what when I started using that. And I have multitude of holsters. I have one from Silent Arm Concealment, which I use a ton too. I still love that holster. It's just the only problem I have with that holster is it has the police flag on there, and I just like straight black. Nothing wrong with the police flag. I have tons of cops, and I went through police training myself, but I don't want that on my firearm. So I used to have the back of the gun used to say Mavun Abi, which is come and take it in Latin. But I've talked to a lawyer. I did a YouTube video on this a while back, where I talked about having writing on your firearm is a really terrible idea. Any kind of writing, because it's more or less like premeditated homicide. Because any kind of writing. Now there's always like that argument of upgrades to your firearm, right? Like you can't put a trigger, you can't put night sights, you can't put things on there. It makes the thing is about that in court. Like if you pull your firearm out in a self defense matter, there's really no way that they can put that back on you. If you follow the rules and you use your firearm in an act of self defense, it's really a no-brainer. And in most cases, there's never been a case where it was an act of self-defense, but they were like, oh no, he has a trigger upgrade, no longer self-defense. Self-defense is self-defense. It doesn't make the gun any more dangerous. What does make it more dangerous is when you start putting things like Born to Kill on there, or Come and Take It, or like any kind of little symbols or flags or happy faces on them back base plate, slide plates and stuff like that. There was poems like from the Bible and all that. You got to take that stuff off of your gun. It's not good. It's premeditated. It shows that you have an intent to do harm, or you have an intent to use it. So just take it off. Leave it plain. That's my advice. You don't have to follow it. You don't have to listen to me. I'm just saying it kind of makes sense. If you want to really get if you just kind of use your brain and common sense, it kind of makes sense, right? So just take the writing off the gun. That's the name of the actual YouTube video I have. If you want to check that out, it's called "The Writing on the Gun" or something. You can check that out. If you're watching this on YouTube, if I remember, I'll put a annotation card on one of these sides so you can check that video out. So a quality holster, and you're gonna want to carry the thing all the time. And I always say, like, that can mean a lot of things, right? Like you could just be like, oh, I'm just gonna go to the store for 3 minutes, but you don't get to pick and choose when something shitty's gonna happen. So you always have to have that on you, no matter what. So if you're worried about and stuff the thing in and out, get something like what I have, which is a fanny pack type deal. So it's just like a fanny pack, and inside it is my Glock 43, an extra flashlight, a cat tourniquet, a K-bar knife, an extra magazine with a Neomag magnetic pocket clip holder. So what that'll do is you can it's a little magnet that goes on the pocket, in your pocket, but it sticks to the magazine. And, my holster's in here so I can draw it. And it's just a real great way to off-body carry a firearm. And one of those SOE tactical fanny packs will fit a Glock 19. It'll fit a full size. I have a 43 in there. It's way enough room to put other things. So that's an option. Or the backpack nowadays, you could put that Velcro VanQuest holster in a backpack. You don't have to carry it on you, but my recommendation for that, that's only when I'm wearing sweatpants or gym clothes or something like that, or when I'm rushing around. I don't feel like putting it on me. If I'm going quick to the store, then I'll do things like that. But the firearm is always on me, and that's the main trick about it, right? It's always on you. So training, and if you're gonna do a method like that, make sure you train with it. Make sure you're gonna try unholstering it, because you're gonna have to go through another zipper now to pull that out. So, and if you're carrying it back on your back hip, like sometimes I'll use it when I'm walking the dog, and it'll be, speaking of the dog, hi mama, hi Miss Doggin. Miss Doggin is here. So yeah, like sometimes I'll be walking her, and and I'll have it back there, but I like to practice that, and even practice with a leash in your hand. Practice situations that you think you might end up in when you're carrying your firearm, and practice with winter clothes, summer clothes. Practice when it's freezing cold outside. Maybe go out back and try it, or out in the woods, and don't do this when the freaking thing's loaded. By the way, remember my rules here. Basic rules. Always assume it's loaded. When you're doing practicing unholstering it and drawing and draw speeds and stuff and reholstering, make sure it's unloaded, and always point the firearm in a safe direction. So that has to do with that too, like training, especially in the house, even when it's empty. Practice muzzle safety or muzzle discipline. So yeah, in the rain and the snow and all different weather will affect how you're gonna pull it out, how that trigger feels when it's all gonna affect that. Are you wearing gloves? All those things you need to try, because pulling the trigger with gloves on is gonna be a lot different to pulling the trigger without gloves on. Just unholstering, it's gonna be a lot different than with gloves on and with. You might fumble a thing. It's very hard to do it quickly and efficiently. So you got to practice all those things. Don't just assume you're going to naturally have the ability to do that because you got a firearm permit. You actually have to put the time in and train with it. It's just like anything else. I mean, it's like driving a car. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. As soon as you got in a car, you were probably the worst driver in the world. There's nobody that just gets in a car and is like, oh, I'm a smooth driver, like I've been doing it 50 years. Unless you're like Dale Earnhardt. But these are people who are extraordinary at what they do. Plus, they also have been practicing since they were children and grew up around it. So maybe if you grew up around guns and stuff, they may be a little bit different. But still, those are the people who put in the most training. People who grow up around it because they know what it takes to actually own a firearm and be efficient at it. Because to be honest with you guys, it's not easy. It's not as easy as just simply pulling the thing out of a holster, pointing it, and shooting a trigger. Now, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, that's basically what it is. Okay, it's that's what it is. You point it, you shoot it, right? But I'm talking about being efficient at it and being good at it and being a responsible firearm owner, because you don't want to be when you're concealed carry. This doesn't mean you are automatically now a badass. That when you have your right to bear arms, you have this right for a reason, right? So this only means great responsibilities. So with great responsibilities comes greater risks, okay? Because the risk, when you carry a firearm, now you're involving yourself in more risk to get involved with some kind of confrontation to do with a firearm, right? And there's the argument, but we could speculate all day long about if you would need one or not. You never know. That's the thing about it, is you don't get to pick and choose when something bad happens. So it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right? The right to bear arms is there for a reason. Shit happens every single day, but you have to be a responsible firearm owner. So when you have that responsibility, when you are legally able to have that, you have to take it into your own hands to make sure you're going to use it in the correct manner, meaning training. Now, I am with the fact that there needs to be some kind of training implemented in firearm in certain firearms. I think the everyday person that's going to get a concealed carry firearm or a license to carry a firearm and has a Glock or whatever, I think the background check that they have. Maybe do something. I don't know. It's tough to say because these tests, you don't want to start testing people and somebody could just have a bad day and somebody could just tweak one thing and then all of a sudden you lose your right to bear arms. So it's very tricky and it's tough to fix, but there is a mental health issue here. So what do you do about assault rifle? Not assault rifle. I'm sorry. What do you do about the AR-15s? People that buy those. Do you imply the fact that you have to go through some kind of training, like maybe like a 2-hour course? I believe that you should have to go through a 2-hour course to own an AR-15. I do. I don't think you should have a test where to see if you're a psycho or not, because that test can be, it's really hard for them to determine if it's right or not, right? So how can they have a test like that? It's difficult. So I don't know. I think if you can't pass that course, though, you need to take that safety course, and maybe there is a safety course for owning a firearm. I don't know. Maybe that's the way to go about it. I don't know, but you have to put upon yourself to be more of a responsible man or woman when you own a firearm. Now, that means when people are arguing, or when somebody butts in front of you in traffic, or when somebody's just being an asshole in a supermarket, you're not going to be like, yo, shut the F up, I have a gun or something, or somebody butts you in traffic. You're not going to be the guy that waving a gun out, But those are the types of people who have firearms who give it a bad name because they do shit like that. And now, if you're one of those people, please leave my channel. We don't want you here. This is not about egos. This is about learning, being responsible, and doing it the right way. Staying out of the confrontation is your best bet. It's your only way, really. The best tool you're going to have in this fight is your brain, okay? So use it. It's a lot smarter than you think. So use your brain, use your common sense. If somebody's not pulling out a gun and threatening your life, you don't need to be pulling your gun out, period. So, but yeah, you got to be responsible, and you got to know that you can't just be Superman now that you have a gun. You can't be, because you're not, you aren't. You aren't the savior, you're not a badass, and especially if you don't do the training. So this is all about being more responsible. If you can be responsible at it, you can follow these basic guideline rule. I mean, it's so much more than just going, oh, I want a gun, I'm just going to go buy one, and, maybe I'll carry it some days, maybe I won't. It's so much more than that, And also, make sure you're going to donate to anybody, make sure it's the Gun Owners of America, not the NRA. So when you're shooting your firearm, practicing with it, you're going to practice with range ammo, but you're also going to want to shoot the ammo that you're carrying with, which is probably, hopefully, different than the range ammunition that you're using, because you don't know the range ammo. It's going to be weighed different. The grains are different, so it weighs different. It's going to be heavier. The velocity is going to be different. You might not be as accurate with it. So there's things to consider there. So make sure you're also, if you do any upgrades as far as magazine, base plate changes, or any kind of upgrades, you're always going to want to shoot the ammo that you actually carry with, because it's going to be a lot different than 115 grain, range ammo. So practice with your carry ammo, and when you're done, always clean and maintain. I recommend you clean and maintain your firearm once every month. At least once a month, just take it apart, clean it, get the dust out of it from being in and out of pockets and pocket lint and backpacks and whatever. Get that lint. Just take it apart. Field stripping a gun anymore takes less than 30 seconds, really, if you're good at it. I mean, God, it takes me probably takes me 9 seconds to field strip my Glock. So, seriously, I could do it really quickly. And some of you could probably do it faster than that, but I'm not in a race, I'm just saying. Make sure you're checking your recoil assembly and your recoil spring, and make sure your plunger. I have my plungers polished. But make sure you're checking your extractor, make sure all that stuff, your feed ramps, and make sure everything's operating good once a month. Run some rounds through it. And go to the range frequently and practice. I mean, like, I can't stress that enough. You got to train. My buddy bought a Glock 19 Gen 5 about 3 months ago and still has not fired this thing. He bought an O-Light for it, and he still hasn't shot it. I'm like, you shoot this gun yet? No. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? He's gonna... Anyway. So clean your firearm. Carry it everywhere. Practice at night because, most altercations with firearms are at night. Right? So, one thing that I do want to stress, though, about carrying a firearm and owning one is medical. So many guys, and I even I see gun channels and EDC channels, like, talk about, oh, I don't really have medical, I don't know a lot about it. That doesn't make any sense to me. If you carry the power to take a life, you should carry the power to save a life. It's a real simple concept. A lot of this medical stuff is kind of easy. I mean, it's either a chest seal or a tourniquet or wound packing gauze into a stab wound or a gunshot in the gut. You're not using a tourniquet on a gut. You're not using a chest seal. You can use a chest seal on a gut, but you're generally wound packing that if it's an in and out. A chest seal. I mean, there's different things. You gotta learn. You should learn it. It goes beyond the average. Just I'm gonna buy a gun and I can't wait to carry my gun. I want a gun. There's all this shit happening in the news. I want a gun. It's so much more than that, and you got to consider all the other things too. The other variables. Medical is so important. Having a tourniquet, what good is it gonna do if you have a gun and you get shot and you don't have a tourniquet, or you shoot a person and you didn't follow rule number 4 and you shoot somebody innocent, it grazes their arm, hits an artery, and now you don't have a tourniquet to save their life and you just shot someone. So you got to think about things. Or maybe you did get in an altercation in a gunfight, and you're in a situation where the perpetrator has shot at you and you put them down, but you didn't kill them. What are you going to do? Just let them there bleed out? Do you know how inhumane that is? It's disgusting. You have to save his life. Go up to him, kick their gun away, and save their fucking life. Okay, let them go to jail, whatever the case is. But you can't just let them go there. What are you going to do, walk up and put a couple in their head like a Hollywood movie? Like, come on, man. You got to think about this stuff realistically, guys. So carry medical, and even if not anything, if anything at the very least, maybe you're just going to the range having some fun. At the very least, that's where most accidents happen. Where are you more likely to get shot? At the supermarket or a place where guns are going off? I mean, come on. So carry a tourniquet, carry chest seals. This stuff's simple. I have it all over my channel, all over Skinny Medic's channel, all over Odin Medical Instagram page and Skinny Medic's Instagram and Such, and everybody does medical. I mean, I can't stand some of these gun channels that you don't see them talk about medical. Like Talon C's supposed to talk about, he's supposed to be a gun channel, and he's like, I don't really have medical stuff. I don't know a lot about it. Well, learn about it, dude. You're shooting a fucking gun. Learn medical. It's not difficult. Take a little bit of time, learn medical. Now, I don't watch him anymore, so I don't know. Maybe he has, but I'm just saying, back then. And then the other guy, obviously you could tell I'm not a fan of this guy because I mentioned him before, but the firearm guy or whatever the heck his name is, regular guy training or whatever. Firearm guy's good dude. Firearm, or the regular guy training or whatever, I was like, he was talking about what to bring to his training courses out where he lives, where he owns his training course or whatever. And he's like going through all this stuff, and he didn't say nothing about medical. And I messaged him in the comments. I was like, why do you not mention anything about bringing medical, like a tourniquet or chest seals or something? And he's like, oh, I don't know anything about that stuff. Weren't you in the Army? You don't know about a fucking tourniquet? And so, I don't know. Those kind of things I question. So, I wouldn't go to a training school like that, to be honest with you. That's just me. If you're going to start training with rifles and heavy caliber rifles and heavy training like that, you better learn medical first. Just saying. So let's just go through a quick recap, right? The basic rules we went over. Always assume a firearm's loaded. Keep your finger off the trigger at all times until you're ready to shoot. Muzzle discipline, know your target, and beyond. All right, get a good gun belt, a good holster, because the more comfortable you are, the more you're going to want to carry. And that's just whether you have a hybrid, whether you have a Kydex, whether you have a leather, whether you have one of those stupid pocket clip things with the little trigger shield. Train your butt off. All right, train in the snow, train in the rain, train in the cold, train in the hot. All those different variables have their different ups and downs. Okay, as far as when your hands are sweaty and it's hot, as far as your hands are freezing when it's cold, as far as gloves on, rain, snow, whatever. So there's different variables. You need to train in them all because you never know when something's going to happen. Train at night. Do you have night sights? Do you not have night sights? I recommend you put night sights on all your firearms right away. First thing you do. Some people don't like them. But honestly, I don't know how you're going to see at night. So maybe an RMR scope would be, or RMR, they're great. But something on like a 43, it's kind of pointless to do that. But if you're going to carry a Glock 19 or something, the RMRs are great on those. And you can see with them. One thing I did forget to mention, though, is practice drawing from your car. Practice around and in your car, out of your car, where you're keeping it in your car. Practice what would happen if somebody came up to your window with a gun pointed at you, telling you to get out of your car. In most cases, what I would say, my advice to you would be, is to just give them the fucking car. It's not worth it. Just give them the car. Here you go. Give me your wallet. Give them the wallet. You're gonna get in a gunfight over a wallet. So, but the best advice I can give to you guys is to think about this really practical, and more cases than other, avoid a situation when you can. There's going to be maybe, and it's very, very unlikely, but there could be a situation where you would have to use your firearm. And in that case, you better hope you have these methods down. The draw speed, the different things, are you fumbling? Do you have one in the chamber, which you should? Do you have a safety? Are there things like that? I don't use a safety. I have a Glock, but there are guns that do. So you have to know all these things. And unfortunately, I see a lot of people that own firearms that just don't consider the training aspect of it. And it's a shame. So carry everywhere, practice at night, and keep it concealed. Okay, you got a firearms permit, but keep it concealed, keep it classy. You don't have to promote it. It's great to promote the Second Amendment, and I am all about that. But promoting, look at me, I have a gun, is different. That's a different beast. Don't get involved. Take the writing off the gun. Don't have any writing on there as far as like Bible quotes, freedom, come and take it, all that crap. All that crap that you have on those backslide plates or on the mags, you can't have it on there. Take it off. It's premeditated. Get it off the gun. No writing on the gun. I'm very, very serious about that. You don't have to take that advice, but it's honestly, you could do your own research about it and figure out that it's probably a real good idea. Because it is premeditated. It means you were thinking about doing harm or using your firearm before you actually did. So, use your head. When somebody asks you, do you have a gun? Say yes. Can I see it? Say no. Never let anybody see your firearm. There's no reason for that, You don't go around like, yeah, look at what I got. Keep it concealed, keep it hidden. It's there. Nobody needs to know. You want to be as discreet as humanly possible. Now, I know. I was there. I was the guy who just got a Glock, 10 years ago or whatever. And I was the guy who wanted everybody to know I had a gun. I was in that position. And I can tell you right now, it means nothing. Nobody gives a shit. And you're better off now as young then, but if you're just getting started, you're going to have that mentality. You're going to want to show people. You're going to want people to know you have a gun on you. For some freaking reason, we get it in our head that everybody has to know. But it's the exact opposite. You have to train yourself to be discreet about it, because the more discreet about it, the better off you really are with the whole situation as far as the way people perceive you, the way you are going about it, being a responsible firearm owner, and, just generally being a better example for the Second Amendment community. So, and like I said, upgrades are fine, but like the writings, it's different. It takes it to another level. Take care of your firearm, maintain it once a month, and change parts as needed once a year as you progress for rounds. I'd say every 5,000 rounds or 3,000 rounds, I think it is, you need to change that recoil spring and maybe a few other things. I'm due for a new trigger. I'm getting ready to put a better trigger in this thing soon. So anyway, that's it. That's gonna wrap up the concealed carry version of the podcast. Please let me know in the comments what you think about this. Give me a good rating. This is on iTunes. This is on YouTube. And if you're an Android user, you can just go ahead and download this right on Podbean. Download the app. It's super easy. I will see you guys in the next one for podcast episode 10. Not sure where we're going to go with it yet, but this was awful fun. I am having a great time with you guys on the podcast. I'm so glad a lot of you are enjoying it lately, it seems. So I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great evening. I will talk to you soon. Peace.